Hey, everybody, I'm so glad you're joining us. We're having our second roundtable to talk about tribal issues facing Arizona and a way to unite all Arizonans for a peaceful and prosperous life and just talk about issues that are affecting all of us. Everyone's struggling right now, and I'm so glad to have an incredible group of people. We have Cheryl here, we have Jocelyn and Glenna, and we also have Mike Westerhoff with our Tribal Voices for Kari Lake, our U.S. Senate campaign. Mike, you've been very instrumental in helping bring people together and tell us a little bit more about what we're going to accomplish today and where you think things are going.
Well, since last year, we've had a discussion with some other great Native voices from Arizona who are talking about healthcare, inflation, our water rights. So we're getting into more of a different conversation with Native youth, rehabilitation, and again, we get back to motherhood here, and really what kind of brings us back to the table is how all those solutions on any platform that you're taking on has an Indigenous perspective of that as well. So I'm glad you're facilitating this conversation. You've been so ready to talk about this and eager to hear from our Native folks from Arizona.
Well, I'm all about solutions, and I think that is kind of the mama bear in me. When we've got a problem in our families as mothers, we try to find a solution for it because we don't want to have problems fester. And so I'm the only mom running for U.S. Senate here in Arizona, and I'm happy to be joined by these incredible women. Jocelyn, who's a young woman, Glenna, her mom, and Cheryl, who's working really hard to help with rehabilitation services for women who are in a tough spot and find themselves in a tough predicament. And so let's start with you, Cheryl. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing and what the needs are, how we can help, and the success that you're having.
And in order for these solutions to to actually happen for us, we need to become a praying people, and we need to put our trust back in God. Native people across Indian country, we say the Creator. The Creator is the creator of all life and is the light and is within us. And we are the fire keepers of our own light within inside of us. Time for our people to reconnect with the Creator. And we will find solutions if you're listening to that spiritual language that's been given to us. It's a gift.
I'm so glad that you said that. I agree with you 100%. You know, when we pushed God out, we really lost our way. Absolutely. When we pushed God out of our country, when we stopped electing people who were God-fearing individuals, and when we push God out of our individual lives, our families, everywhere.
We lose our blessings.
We do. And you're right. I mean, I understand that. We used to work in an addiction center. I was a janitor there, but I got to listen to a lot of people when I was in that center. I would be cleaning, and I was listening to a lot of people, whether they were in group therapy, and I just heard that. I heard this sadness inside of them. And back then, the program, I think it was called the 12-step program, am I right? Mm-hmm. They talked about God immediately. The first part of it was, you really hand your life over to God. They've taken that out in a lot of our recovery now.
Well, with the state and access and the Medicaid and the things for billing, they don't have a billing code or a process for teaching this. We're not allowed to teach this, and people that are trying to open up these facilities that are healing, they can't bill for these types of services. And that's a big issue. And it can be resolved, but it's more therapeutic, psychology, the mental breakdown, the clinical side of it. How our people heal. The clinicals, if you have both, that's great. But we also need to incorporate the cultural, the healing, the reconnecting to the Creator. And in order to do that, in order for people to actually heal, and I've seen it work. And in the last 6 years, I've witnessed it, and I've witnessed, the Creator's hand in healing.
I've talked to people who work in homeless centers. And I remember an interview that I was doing with somebody, and she said, we don't want to take federal money, even though there's so much of it, because they will not let us. They will not let us teach about God. And there's no way back to sobriety without it.
We need to bring in the good. Yeah. We need to allow that and open that up.
Well, I am so thankful for what you're doing. I am, during my governor's campaign and now in the Senate campaign, I've said we've got to have a plan to even deal with the chronic street homelessness. It's just despair. And God did not envision, the Creator did not envision any one of us living a life like that. He wants our lives to be full and healthy, prosperous,
and full of blessings.
And full of blessings, yes, amen. And so we're going to work to make that happen. These are not problems that are impossible to solve, but we have to get smart. And when you push God out, that's not a very smart thing.
Don't keep them on the shelf.
Don't keep them on the shelf. I love it. Let's talk a little bit about you, Glenna, and your incredible daughter, Jocelyn. I heard that Jocelyn won an award. Tell
Well,
us.
you know what? She's really active. She's active with church and with school and with her own. She does dance, but we were just looking back at a competition that she won last year. It was the Peoria District Patriotic Speech
That's
Contest.
the one I heard about.
Yeah, so she competed within her class, had to write a speech and present it in front of the class.
I had to compete with my class, and you had to sit in front of your class to compete. And I was like, do I want to do it or should I not? And just send a video to my teacher. And I was like, oh well, might as well try, I guess. So I tried and I ended up winning.
Wow.
And then like a couple weeks later, we went to the school competition. There was another kid in my class that got second place. So us two, we went to the school and then we had our competition, and it took like the judges maybe 30 minutes to decide. And then they chose me and I won.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Jocelyn, what was kind of the theme of your speech?
It was what was patriotism, I had to explain what it was, and then how can young people show their patriotism.
Tell me a little bit more about that. In your view, what is patriotism, and then how can young people show more patriotism?
Patriotism is like showing your respect and love and honor and for your country and devotion. And then in my speech I said young people can show their patriotism by wearing the colors of their country, saying the Pledge of Allegiance, respecting their veterans, and sharing good facts about their country.
That's great. And I think that we're a country of many different people, which makes us so beautiful and makes us so strong. There has been kind of an assault on patriotism. There's I hate to say it, the left is trying to make it look like it's racist, and it's the one thing that brings us together. We can still be individuals, have different backgrounds, history, culture, but the one thing that ties us all together is we're all Americans and we love this country. And when we come together on patriotism, then we come together united, and we're so much stronger, as we know, when we are united than when we're divided. It's easy to divide and conquer. I think that's their goal. But when we come together and stand, and you know this in helping people get through difficult times, when you're alone thinking, I'm in this alone, I've got nowhere to go, it's really easy to continue that fall. But when you say, no, I'm here with you, and we can work through this together, it's strength. It's strength.
We're talking about access and opportunity and blessings. Do you think that Indian country, maybe up in Navajo, kind of is a good area for that to happen? And why can't we get those blessings back on the Navajo reservation?
Well, I think, wow, that's a big one. I mean, I could go in many directions with that, but I think it is the breakup of the family, praying to Creator. For some reason, there's an opposition against that. When really, my parents and my grandparents, they always taught me to pray to Creator God, and that was the way. That was the way to have strength, to have love. The main thing also is the family unit, being together and sitting together at every meal, saying a prayer, and just being together. And also, not only that, but they were also patriots. So I'm a product of that. My grandparents, my father, and my uncles, my aunties, they fought in wars and went to the military. And so just growing up, having that in my household and seeing that, then that's something I want to pass on. But with all that, there's this whole other world that is upside down and twisted. And there's the historical trauma you're talking about. That just tears families apart, people down, brings them down. And so it's like thinking of the recovery. It is difficult, it's hard. And if you don't have that support around you, that much harder. So I
when you
think,
say that, I think of oppression.
yes,
Our
it is
people are,
oppression.
it is
It
oppression.
is.
And trying to get out from underneath that heavy burden is very difficult. And when you say we have to do it as a unit, as a group, things have to change because we're in this circle, this cycle that's continuing generation after generation after generation. And our youth are suffering, and we're losing them younger and younger and younger to suicide. It's sad to say, but statistically across the boards, with domestic violence, alcoholism, suicide, all the highest rates, the Native American come in at top. And there's something has to be done. We have to do something as a people, as a whole. And we need to start taking back the responsibility of our people. I mean, that we have oppression, we have historical trauma, but at the same time, we need to reconnect and we need to start becoming a like-minded people. The Dene say, walk in beauty. My people, Iroquois people, Seneca people say, walk with a good mind. Everything revolves around the Creator. Our culture, which was taken away from that generation because of boarding schools.
Historically, your family understands that. I think now all of America is starting to understand that as we're seeing what's being inflicted on our kids in schools. I call them government-run schools, public schools. The things they're pushing on our kids right now, it's nothing short of psychological abuse.
It's history repeating itself,
It's history.
but not with just Native Americans.
Yeah.
It is now affecting all races.
Yes, indeed. And taking away our history, changing our history, telling us to deny our history, telling us to hate our history. It's affecting all of us now. And I think maybe there's a way that we can understand each other better because of that now. Sadly, that it's happening. We don't want that to happen anymore. Tell us a little bit about, you've got an older daughter as well. You know, I think it's amazing that we have these strong women, though, who are coming up and saying, I want to get involved, I want to help. I always say it's going to be the moms of the world. When you trigger the moms and you start messing with our kids,
That's Native prophecy.
that's when,
That's Native
Mama bear
prophecy.
comes out.
is that really?
Yes, it is.
That's when the mama bear comes out. And you know, we're busy, many of us are working, many of us are taking care of our babies, and when you start to see, oh my gosh, they are going after our children and nothing's being done about it, they have created a wave, a movement of mothers who are standing up, whether they be you know, on native land, whether they be anywhere across this country. When the moms get involved and start voting and start getting politically involved, there's going to be a change in this country, and I think it's going to be for the better.
When your kids were going to school, the teachers, and we don't have to say which school, but they were helping them be kind of woke activists or something, or what was that about?
They went to a school and they were saying, well, we can go do this protest during school without letting the parents know. And my son was the one who came and told me about it. And I was like, well, what do you think? Do you want to do that? Because I've always been like, if you believe in something, go protest, go stand up, do what you need to. And he's like, no, I don't believe in it. And I was like, so then don't do it. And he said, well, we have to. And I told him, no, you don't have to. Eventually, I pulled them out of that school and took them to another school. But I've always been one to be active. I want to know what's going on in my community, in this country, because it affects me and my family. And Jocelyn started when she was 6. So we used to gather signatures for the candidates we supported.
That's great.
And we even stood out during voting season, held our Trump sign. I went to vote, and before school, we were out there holding signs until I had to go to work. We've been pretty active doing that, and in return, I feel like going back to it's a cycle, it's a cycle. What I decided was, the world is crazy. I can't do everything, and I can shield my children from everything happening, but I need to concentrate on my family, my kids. So that's always been my goal, is to make sure that they know what's going on around them in the community, in schools, in the world. And so that they can be equipped to make those choices like,
It's a lot. It's a lot
is
because
this good for me or
you want
bad?
to make sure your kids are getting properly educated. You're trying to
Yes.
feed them and clothe them, and now we have to explain to them what's happening politically. And
And Jocelyn, you'll have to share with Kari, you're brave enough to stand up against these mandates.
Oh, yeah.
yes, tell us about
So
that.
in, I think, fourth grade, we had to wear masks because we just recently got back to school from the pandemic. And me and my nephew Josh, we didn't want to wear masks to school anymore, so we showed up without them, and then they sent us to a separate room with other kids who didn't want to wear their masks, and we stayed in there for about like 2 weeks, and we had to teach ourselves.
You might have learned more in that 2 weeks. You learned who was courageous, right?
They did
Wow,
stand
they
up,
separated you out.
Yeah.
and they also,
Well, but you see, you knew that you couldn't breathe with those on your face, and you probably knew just the science that it wasn't really going to stop a virus.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a mom, I'm sure that you guys can relate. It just killed me to see my beautiful children having to put a mask on,
yeah,
muzzle them so they
it
wouldn't
was,
be able to
it
talk.
was awful.
I'm glad you
And
did that. You're a
they
courageous
stood
one.
up. They even went to the school board meeting. They wanted to talk to them and say their part of why they shouldn't have to wear the mask, because they were wearing them in the class and then going out and playing with everyone else without a
Our
mask
masks on.
after that.
Didn't make any
In
sense,
between
did
the
it?
classes.
You're like, wait a minute, I'm in fourth grade and it doesn't make sense. That takes a lot of bravery. Were you about 9 years old when
I
you
think
did that?
10.
10 years old. Wow. I'm so proud of you and thank you for doing that. People say to me sometimes, you give me inspiration, you encourage me, you're courageous. And I say, I'm a middle-aged lady. It's the young people who are standing up and doing the right thing, even facing peer pressure, because we all know when we were younger how hard that peer pressure is and how hard it is to stand up and say something like that to a teacher. You give me inspiration, and I am really honored to be sitting just in your presence right now. So thank you for showing that courage. That's great. I think two of the issues that affect everybody, and I think in what you're talking about, trying to help women coming through recovery, is this wide open border with fentanyl pouring across. You can do an incredible job. You can get people clean and sober and ready to take on a life as a contributing citizen and a wonderful individual. But if this never-ending flow of drugs is pouring across, the setbacks are just going to keep coming.
Well, I think that working together and that collaboration really has to work together when we're talking about the border. We're seeing that the fentanyl, those cartels, they're embedding themselves in the Blackfeet Reservation up in Montana. They've come all the way from the border and crossed into Montana, and because federally we can't, tribes can only take care of other tribal citizens, so we can't. There isn't a law or jurisdiction for people that are not even American to enforce them, to take them out of their reservations. And I think, you know, when you're in the Senate, you know, we have good friends, Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, we have Senator Barrasso, who sat on the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, where we can start building that collaboration and conversation and build some real solutions to get a border, to take care of some of these education issues, really help our veterans, really help out the education system, help out our youth, and empower our women to be better leaders for the next 7 generations on. So
I love that. And I'm so honored to have Senators Mullen and Barrasso's endorsement. I'm looking forward to working with them. And we have 22 tribes here in Arizona, and I want to see strong, healthy people living on those tribes and doing what we can to help and be partners. Absolutely.
That would be great. You have my vote then.
Thank you. Now let's talk a little bit about the economy if we can. And I know that even our young people are feeling the effects of it. The kids are feeling it, and it's affecting, we're working so hard. You worked really hard to raise your kids and be a great mom. And now it's like you have to work harder, harder, harder. You're working harder, and the money you're bringing home it's buying less buying power, and we're struggling. And I think it's going to lead to more problems than you have to deal with, Cheryl. So how are you getting by, and what are the stories that you're hearing that you can tell me so I know going forward how to help?
Everything in the economy, like the prices of food, gas, travel. We have to go away to a lot of her dance events. That was expensive in the beginning, and now it's probably double or triple the price. But food, for sure, like eating out, like we don't eat out anymore. We do a lot more cooking at home, but you walk into the grocery store and everything is doubled in price. If you just look at one piece of meat, it's like, wow, really? Okay. I don't remember it being that high before, but it's really high. And just regular getting ready for school, like you said, her activities, just everything has gone up. And I remember back like 4 years ago, things were definitely a lot better. I had money in my pockets. We were able to travel more, do more, and I felt like things were good.
And I
in
worry
2
so
years.
much about people who are nearing retirement, in retirement, who did save that little nest egg, and now they're looking at it saying, that's not going to get me through. I tell the story of talking to a woman who's about to celebrate her 80th birthday. She said, Kari, I thought we had saved enough to get through retirement. Her husband had passed away. She said, I think I'm going to have to try to go back to work, but who's going to want to hire an 80-year-old? And I said, you shouldn't have to go back to work at 80. You've done enough. You've done enough. Enjoy those golden years. But we're in this economy that is just not working. The way we're going, the direction we're going is not working for anyone. I want to help turn it around and build that economy back up. Under President Trump, our economy was better. Our border was safer.
Yes.
Fewer drugs were coming across. We were not starting up new wars overseas that we were sending our young men and women off to fight. And I think we had a better environment to raise our children in. So I'm going to work really hard to make sure we do that. And when I am in the U.S. Senate, I want to represent all Arizonans, and I want to be a good partner with all of our tribal nations. So I appreciate you all being here today. I agree with you so wholeheartedly that we need to bring God back, the Creator back into our world. And when you do that, it's amazing the blessings that just start pouring out.
Absolutely.
Pouring out. So
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that day.
yes, me too, me too.
There's so many different Native people all in Arizona, even out of state, are coming to our Native Americans for Kari Instagram page and paying attention to how all of these issues that are affecting us nationally, there's always a tribal implication to it. There's always something that affects Natives maybe a little bit more when we're talking about inflation, when we're talking about job security, education, and just being a good student. Those kind of issues spill over. So happy to have that conversation.
Tell us where we can find it on Instagram. And
so the Instagram handle's Native Americans for Kari. Got a good following there. Please join us. We talk about a lot of these issues and how they're affecting Indian country and bringing that back home. So
awesome. So go check that out. Thank you, all of you lovely women and our future strong women. I'm so excited for you, Jocelyn. You give me great hope for the future. And thank you for joining us today. We look forward to doing this again.